Okay, welcome. Welcome, Tina.
Thank you.
So, this is Tina, the psychologist. She's from Denmark. And I met you about 3 weeks ago now.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just really cool because it was her birthday. I didn't know it was her birthday. And it was like, your birthday, your birthday. And we started dancing and stuff. And then we started talking about nutrition and mindset. And then I learned that you're a psychologist. So I was like, wow, that's super interesting because I love geeking out on everything about psychology. And we were just talking off camera about, the real root of the problem, which is not the food. It's before that. It's about the mental aspects behind why people continue these patterns that are not serving them. So what do you think is the root cause of people putting on weight, people struggling to improve their health?
Okay, you want to dive in deep.
Let's go deep. We're going deep in this video.
We're going deep. Oh, so the root cause is the belief I am not good enough.
Okay.
It all comes down to lack of self-worth, lack of self-love, lack of self-compassion. And you need to understand that first.
Yeah.
And you need to work on that first, like to have self-acceptance, to have self-love, to believe that you're good enough as you are, in order to treat your mind and your body with the best fuel. That's like the biggest
Yeah.
thing.
So, but that's interesting. So, I'm not good enough, right? I feel like everyone has that in them. That there's some part of them that they feel like it's not good enough. Like for me, it's like my legs, right? Like funnily enough, people look at me like, that guy's like got an awesome body, but then they don't know that I'm self-conscious about my legs, right? Like, because I've always had skinny legs, and for me, that's my part of my body where I'm like, I'm not good enough, right? And that's just like it's a reminder that I'm not good enough, almost. But I feel like, I'm working on that myself. That's my shit I got to work on. But I feel like most people, especially they come to me, they want to lose weight, they want to build some muscle, and like you said, it's coming from a place of I'm not good enough. I'll be good enough when fill in the blank, right? So it's like this trap of thinking they'll be good enough when they get to this particular goal, and then when they get the goal, ironically, they realize that they still feel like they're not good enough, right?
Then there's just another thing.
Yeah.
There's the skinny arms or too big stomach.
Yeah. So what is the solution then? If someone feels like they're not good enough, what's the solution to feeling like they're good enough?
Of course, I want to say that they should come and talk to Tina, the psychologist. But what it all comes down to is that every time you find something, let's say on your body, that's something that you have an idea about from the outside. So you're telling yourself, my legs are not perfect.
Yeah.
I want them to be bigger or stronger.
Yeah.
But that's something outside of you. Like, of course, it's your body, and your body is a part of you, but it's something outside of you. So if you fix that leg problem, then you still have this inner feeling of not being good enough. So you can't just change your weight, change the shape of your body, color your hair, get curls or straight hair. Because if you have a deeper feeling that probably I'm not worthy of love, then nothing can change that until you start to love yourself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah.
I'm listening.
So what would you have to do in order to have self-love and to feel good about yourself again? What I do when I talk to people is to identify, like, where does this come from? Do you have any experience when you were a child or younger where you felt like you were not good enough? You were somehow judged based on your looks, how attractive you were to other people, whether, now we have a dog in the background.
Welcome to Bali.
Embracing nature.
Oh.
So you have to identify, like, where does this come from, because it's an experience, it's a belief that's grounded in your childhood and in your upbringing. And it might come from the environment that you have been a part of, like, let's say, like your friends in school that maybe bullied you, or it might be that you had a mom or a dad who was like very controlled around, don't eat too much, like sugar is not good for you, you're never going to get a boyfriend or a girlfriend if you're too fat. Like if you are brought up with that mindset, it's going to affect you. And you will start to believe, okay, unless I look perfect, I'm not good enough. So identify, where does this come from? And what are all the feelings that are attached to it? Because I'm not feeling good enough, that's a sadness, right? It's an insecurity, it's doubt, it's a fear. Fear of the judgment, fear of not being good enough. What would other people think about me and my body if I gain weight or if I lose weight? So there's so many emotions there, and if you don't deal with them, if you don't really type into them and explore them, you can never like heal the problem. Then you're just touching on the symptoms. So you have to dive deep. If this is a pattern for people where they continuously eat the wrong things, skip going to the gym, talk bad about themselves, like I'm not pretty enough, my legs are too skinny, I should have a different hair color. If that's something that comes up over and over and over again, you have to look inside and heal that inner child. That's still like just needs love.
Yeah, absolutely. And I use the legs as an example because for so long that's been a thought, a belief of mine that I didn't own. And so whatever you don't own owns you, right?
Yeah.
So that had power over me. So recently I was sharing with you that I was at an event, and one of the guys at the event shared how he really hated his body. And I was sitting right next to him and he shared this, and he just broke down into tears and was crying. And I was just thinking to myself, wow, like he's so courageous because he's opening up in front of everyone about his biggest insecurity, like the biggest thing in his life that's holding him back. Yeah. And I think that's real strength, right? Like I was thinking about my insecurity about my legs before, and I actually I'm constantly trying to improve myself physically, but I remember I was training last year and I got sciatica because complications of my hip problem. I have basically most people have bad hips, like they're not mobile enough. So when you're doing like really heavy weight on top of bad hips, that's a problem, and you're going to get some problems with that. So that's what happened to me. And it's interesting thinking about this now because, all these emotions that show up when we feel like we're not good enough, we just suppress them. We never deal with them. Yeah. And so the problem keeps on happening. And then we look at other people, for example, on Instagram, and we're like, oh, that lady has a nice flat stomach, or she has a bikini booty. Yeah. Let me get that, or let me try and do that. And then maybe we do get those results, but we self-sabotage at some point. So what do you say about self-sabotage? Like not feeling worthy? That's a massive topic.
Yeah. And it's the same thing with not feeling good enough, not feeling worthy of love, of appreciation, of everything that you desire. Because there's something holding you back from getting that, because you have to be different. That's the idea. I have to look different. I have to be someone else in order to be the best version of me. But before we talk more about that, I really want to just briefly comment what you said about that guy that really felt the sadness and just the emotions around not being hating his body. That's where the magic happens, where you're actually opening up to feeling that all of the emotions you've been holding down. When you open up to them, they are no longer controlling you.
Yeah.
So he can start to change now, because that's the first part. You have to figure out where does it come from and how does it feel. And it felt like that. He bursted into tears because he was sad.
Yeah.
So you have to, again, so what do? You have to feel it. You have to type into it. And what we do is that we just run away from it. Okay, I just have to go to the gym. I just have to eat healthy, which is all behavior that is really good. But we are also running away from the problem, which is looking in the mirror, saying, okay, what is it that I tell myself about myself? what is that I feel about myself, being me in this body of mine.
Yeah.
And a lot of people that are not satisfied with their body would have this self-sabotaging belief about themselves. And it's only going to make it worse. Because imagine there is just this small girl or small boy that just wants to be a part of the community, to be popular, to be loved, to feel worthy. And all that little child has been told is that you are too fat, you're not pretty enough, you should change the size of your legs, or again, your hair color. So that little guy or girl within still has those feelings. So yes, we grow up and we learn a lot and we are adults and we behave like that, but we still have that child inside of us that's still like sad and just needs our attention and needs our love. And what we do is that we criticize ourselves. We say, you're not good enough. You should have been to the gym today. You shouldn't have eaten 2 cakes. You should not have eaten anything. So tomorrow you can only have a salad. But that's us being critical towards that little inner child. And imagine there is this small, beautiful girl right here. The thing I would never tell her is that she's not good enough. I would just take her and make sure that she felt that she was like perfect the way she was. We would never say something critical to a little boy or a girl, right? But we do it to ourselves every single day if we're not satisfied with the way we look or how much we ate the day before.
Yeah.
So we have to punish ourselves. So tomorrow you have to skip breakfast and lunch because you had too much food yesterday. And it's just punishing yourself. And that's the opposite of showing us self-love.
So it sounds like it all starts with self-love. So this is because, you know, in the health space, most people focus on the symptoms, right? Like I like to use the tree analogy. They focus on, you know, all the stuff they can see, but all the stuff we can't see, no one focuses on that. But that's the real stuff, the roots of the problem. You know, the mindset around how you're thinking about, you know, losing the weight, but more importantly, loving yourself, which is like the foundation.
Yeah.
So what are steps people can take, or you can share maybe what you help your clients do with, you know, loving themselves again? What are the little steps people can take?
First of all, they have to decide that they want to change something that's different than just going on a diet and signing up at the gym. They have to really see, okay, if I want anything to be different long term, I have to face all of that pain and anxiety that is around that. And I have to admit to myself, even though it's so hard, that there's a part of me that doesn't feel good. There's a part of me I would rather have was not a part of me. And in order to make sure that that part of me is not holding me down from living my true life, I have to like put it next to me, like you and me, and say, okay, so I have this part of me that I resent. I would rather not have you here. Can you imagine? I was saying that to you. That's what people tell themselves every day. I would rather not have you here. So you have to make the decision to say, okay, I'm going to invite him or her in to my space because she or he is a part of me. And I'm going to be curious, and I'm going to allow myself to be vulnerable, to explore what that side of myself is. So that's one decision, to start to say, okay, I want to show up for myself. I want to deal with the things that are tough, and I want to try to be more open-minded, kind, and compassionate toward myself. That's like the first step. Because you can never change anything if you come in with that critical, self-sabotaging mindset, because then that person is just going to run away. Like that's not a nice environment to be in. So that's you have to make sure that you are there to do that. And it's very difficult for people to actually see where all of this comes from. and what experiences that has triggered it in the past. And we all need a little bit of support sometimes, so it's really good to have someone to ask you questions. Like, how did you feel about your body when you were 5 or 10? Tell me about the first time you thought your legs should be different. What is the look about, or what do you parents and friends think about physical appearance? What is the mindset around that? How is your mindset around food? Like all of these things to try to identify where you come from and what it's really about. And so support is really, really important. So you have to decide, okay, I'm gonna show up in a different way, and I'm gonna try to be more curious and more open towards myself, and allowing myself to feel the emotions with someone who can support me, because it can be tough. It can be tough, like to see, okay, there's a part of me who doesn't love me. It's scary, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so people need someone like you or me to hold their hand across the bridge of fear, right? Because it's scary to confront your emotions.
It is.
And most people, like we were talking about off camera, most people, they know that there's pain there, so they avoid it with alcohol, drugs, food, anything to Netflix, anything to avoid the pain, because they know it's there.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting segue now with the avoidance of pain, because we can't avoid it. That's the thing. Like we always think we can, but we have to confront it. We have to. The only way out is through, right?
Yeah.
So we have to go through it.
Yeah. But it's human when we are afraid of something, when there's pain, we're not drawn to like go into it because we want to protect ourselves. And especially if we don't feel like that we are worthy and loved, we really want to protect ourselves.
Yeah.
So going into that pain, that's not an option. Because maybe if I go this way, maybe if I just eat healthy, go to the gym, I can avoid this. But this thing over here is only going to stay, and it's only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Because one thing is sure, if you run away from a feeling, that's a sure thing that you're going to keep that feeling. You're going to keep that feeling, and eventually it's just going to burst out. And it can burst out in like an overeating disorder, in a lot of emotional eating, in depression, anxiety, panic attack, stress, because that's what happens when things are held down too long. And then we have to face the pain, because then the pain is there every single day, and that's where it's really tough. So if we actually could get some help along the way to slowly like face the pain in a way where we can feel, okay, this is safe. This is safe. Like a little child going to a kindergarten for the first time, you would never just take your child, leave the child and say, bye, see you in 8 hours.
Yeah, right.
The first time you go in there and say, I'm with you, and we're only going to be here in 30 minutes, and we go home together. We do that for 3 days. Next time we be there 2 hours, I'm still here with you, and we go home together. That's what we do when we have to do something that's difficult. We have to have that support, and that's why you and me are so important in order to support people on that bridge of fear.
Yeah.
Because if you have to walk those steps alone, you would rather not do it, because it's too hard.
Yeah. And most people that I speak with, a lot of people who just don't get it, they don't understand that concept. So they think to themselves, especially men, men have the biggest egos. They're like, oh yeah, I can just do it myself. Like, okay, I'll give you 30 days to do it yourself, because I know how hard it is to sustain this. Like, and all of the things that I don't like to do, or the things that I know I should do, but for whatever reason I'm not doing it, is because of the lack of support, right? So for example, with my legs, it's a hip mobility problem. So that's why I went and got a coach to help me with my hip mobility. So now I have a reason I have accountability now. I have support doing the things that I don't really want to do, but I know is good for me long term. And so I just want to circle back to the sabotage and You're talking about people that get the results, like they go to the gym, they eat healthy, they maintain good sleep patterns, all that kind of stuff, but they still have the problem of not feeling good enough, not feeling worthy. That happened to my business mentor. He actually got a six-pack, and then he rubber banded back to his previous weight. And I asked him, why did you had the result, you had the goal.
Yeah.
What happened? And then he told me, he said, you know what, man, honestly, I just didn't feel worthy of the six-pack. I didn't feel like that was me. Like his identity hadn't changed. He was still the person who felt like he wasn't good enough. So when, it's kind of like the thermostat, right? So when you rise above your levels that you set for yourself, you feel like you're not worthy there. You don't feel good enough. Even though you're in your result, you haven't raised your, I guess, your thermostat. So you're like, oh my God, this is not me. And then you start subconsciously sabotaging by eating the potato chips, eating tons of chocolate, and not going to the gym. And that's exactly what happened to him. So because
I'm not worthy of that six-pack.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he just started doing that. So, I mean, you've probably seen these patterns before, right?
Yeah.
In people.
That's what people do. And I did it myself as well. Focus on the result. And then when I had the result, I was like, I still don't feel like really good.
Yeah.
I still don't feel like really comfortable in my body. So something must be off. Because people would look and say, you should be satisfied. So there's just something else that I needed to like face up front. And I want people to know that everybody has, not everybody, but a lot of people have an idea that something could be different. I could be different in some sort of way. We all do.
Yeah.
And we should say that more, like you're not alone. We all have these things. And if we are more open about it, talking about it, it becomes easier just to be human.
Yeah.
Because we all have these insecurities. And I would never look at you and think about your legs.
Yeah, that's so,
right.
that's so fascinating.
But you do it.
But I do it.
Because it's something inside of you that's not satisfied with that part.
Yeah.
But I have not thought about it.
Yeah, I look at myself in the mirror, I'm like, yeah, I got too much muscle in my upper body. I need to like work on my legs more.
Yeah.
You know, like, stuff like this goes through my mind.
Yeah, and why is it that we are focusing on the things that are not good enough instead of like really saying, wow, man,
Yeah.
you look great.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
It's just, it's all about the root cause. That's why I like to do this video with you, because this is the stuff that I really like to talk about. I mean, we can talk about nutrition and all that kind of stuff, but like I was saying, the guy at the event, my friend, if I'm talking about nutrition, but he doesn't like his body, he hates his body, he's not hearing any of that. Like this, that's just going in one ear, going out the other.
Yeah.
Because why would you listen to things on how to make what you hate improve? Like you don't want to improve what you hate, like he was saying. So.
Yeah.
And then we can talk about emotional eating, because that's a massive one. We kind of touched on it,
Yeah.
but for me, I was talking to you about this off camera, is people don't know the difference between physical hunger and emotional hunger. So can you elaborate on what you were telling me about how physical hunger and emotional hunger come from the same place?
Yeah. So, especially people that eat a lot have lost their sense of feeling when they are actually hungry, because they're just blocking it down, right? They just eat and eat and eat. So how is the body able to communicate when we never communicate, when we always just eat? But physical hunger is felt in the stomach like a small pain, like a hole in your stomach, and it's gonna increase. So with time, it's gonna increase if you don't get food. So you know, okay, I am physically hungry if the pain is gonna increase. And if my stomach starts to say sounds, I feel maybe a bit dizzy or a lack of energy, that's like the body saying, I need fuel, I need energy now. Emotional emotional eating is often just an emotion of stress in the body that is placed the same place as the physical hunger.
Yeah.
So when we feel stressed out or we have had a really stressing day, our body would start to create some of the similar symptoms, and for some people for whom food is a trigger, they would think, I need food. My body's craving food. And for the people that eat a lot of food, they can feel like they have this sense of restlessness in their body, which is also like a stress, restlessness. They don't really know what to do, but something is off. They can't relax, but they know they need it. So they also look at those symptoms and be like, maybe my body is craving food. Because why would my body produce symptoms if it wasn't hungry? So I just eat. And what also happens is that when people actually feel stressed, they have an increase of the hormone called cortisol. And when we have that in elevated levels, we're going to crave more fats, more sugar, more comfort food. So that's also why we just immediately go into the fridge and find something that we can eat. But what it is with emotional eating is that pain, if you allow it to be, if you allow it to feel that stress or restlessness or fear or whatever that is, then it only takes 90 seconds for it to go away. Meaning, if it is an emotion, it will go away. If it's physical hunger, it will increase. So you can, if you sit down and just be aware and take a moment to tune in, your body is going to communicate to you whether this is a physical hunger or it's just an emotion that your body is feeling and is screaming for your attention. Listen.
That's interesting, because when I tell people about the hunger equation, so I tell people, if you feel like you're hungry, a good way to test is to just drink some water. And if you still feel like you could eat something after that, then maybe that's physical hunger. But if you feel like, for example, if you're bored and then you feel like you want to go and eat some chocolate, for example, then that's probably more to do with your emotions rather than actually physical hunger a lot of the times, because a lot of people, you know, they're just bored, so they just eat. There's nothing to do. Well, if there's nothing to do, there's some snacks right there, I'm just going to eat those.
Yeah.
And it's just like mindless eating, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about that mindfulness. So you said before
another noise.
Okay, that's good, it's gone. But you know, when people are hungry and they eat, like what are the mindfulness practices that you recommend to people to become more aware of when they're actually hungry, and you know, how food is actually affecting them, how it tastes, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. It's so important. Mindfulness is so important. I'm so happy you bring this subject up, because there is so much lack of awareness when we eat. Because I feel something and I don't know how to deal with it, I'm just going to take some food because it's going to calm me down. Like, food is comfort. Food is like, I'm going to fill you up. So all of that lack of love, food is going to fill me up. And I need something to fill me up. I need to feel like I'm not alone in this. And food is always there. You can always get it. But you cannot always get someone to hug you if you're alone on your couch every Saturday, Sunday, and feeling miserable. But you can get the chocolate, right? Okay, so that was me on a different level. But when you start to become aware of whatever you're feeling, right? What is my body communicating right now? Is it physical hunger? Is it emotional eating? Or is it emotional, like, craving? Then you start to become aware of yourself. And that's also, you asked about one of the steps to
Self-love.
Yeah, and to change this pattern is to become more aware of whatever it is that you feel. So what you could do is, what I would recommend for people to do is to try to eat, when you eat your meals, eat with no distractions. So there's no phone, there's no laptop, there's no Netflix, there's just you and the food. And you can take 6 deep breaths before, because that's going to align you to just being here and being present. And then you have to like taste the food. Give yourself time to taste the food. Because if you eat when you're stressed, you're going to eat so quickly, right? You just need to get the food in, and you're just like, where did that go? And I had 2 plates.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Yeah.
And it's 7 minutes ago. Because you ate on an emotion. So bring awareness to the present, take a deep breath, tune in, and then start again being curious. Okay, what does this taste like? And what people actually figure out when they do this again and again and again is that the fries, for example, is not that good after number 5 if you're really mindful about it, because then you can taste all the fat. It's like, this is not nice. Or they maybe start to feel after like 1 or 2 rows of chocolate that it's not that satisfying anymore.
Yeah.
So it's taking time. It's taking time and allowing yourself to feel and to have the sensations around it. To just connect with your body again. Connect with your senses, the taste, the smell, the texture, and what kinds of food you actually prefer. Instead of just eating without any awareness and attention.
I feel like that's what most people do when they're stressed.
Yeah.
I used to do that too. Like, oh, I just need to eat this food because I need to do this.
Yeah.
I need to eat this because I need to like go here. I need to get the taxi. So let me just eat first so I can go out on a night out or whatever it is, right? And it's interesting you say that because, you know, my friend Emil was talking about this. He said, when you're on the last bite of whatever it is, like whatever comfort food is of your choice, like chocolate, for example, the last bite, you always want to savor that last bite because you know you're not going to get any more.
Yeah.
So that's like the mindfulness practice you're talking about, right? Like it's applying that awareness and presence to every bite, not just the last one or the first one, right? The first bite is always tasting the best.
Yeah.
And then it's like, after that, it's like the law of diminishing returns. It's just like, oh, I'm going to eat it because it's there. You know?
Yeah.
And you're not enjoying it, you're just eating it because,
Yeah, it's nice and it brings you some sort of calm and it's a comfort.
Yeah.
And actually, I'm the one who craves chocolate a lot, so fries would not be my thing, but chocolate. And what I've realized is that when you actually like really taste it, you need less, but it's really delicious. So I'm not saying that you would always figure out that some foods that you said were bad. We can discuss whether we should
talk about that.
call foods bad
right,
or good. But let's say some people think that chocolate is bad for you. I'm not sure I want to go into that discussion with an idea of what it is or not. But for me, if you allow yourself to really enjoy, then it's okay. Unless it's control, like unless it's not like a lot and you're not aware. But if you decide, okay, now I want chocolate, it's a decision. I'm doing it with awareness. I'm allowing myself to eat this chocolate without the shame, the guilt, the sabotage. Because then it's not going to happen. Like allowing yourself, I can eat this. It's okay. It's a treat. Everybody does it, and I can have it too.
Yeah, that's a massive difference because most people they feel like the food is calling them almost. It's like, oh, I'm so stressed. Let me just like eat the chocolate, right? But if you actually are mindful about it and you're choosing to, this is what I do, right? So people look at me and they're like, oh, you're so dogmatic. You're so strict, and that's not what I preach. I don't preach like being completely strict because I don't believe that. I mean, unless you've had a health scare, you're not going to be strict about your nutrition. It's just impossible. So, like I can eat a brownie here and there or a chocolate, but so long as I'm mindful of it and it's my choice, I'm not doing it because I'm reacting to an emotion. That's a massive difference there. There's like night and day difference. And I feel like most people are doing the opposite, which is they're reacting to their emotions because they don't know how to deal with them, and they're just eating the stuff that most nutritionists say that's bad, but again, we can talk about that because the language we use around food is super important.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like building your own prison around certain foods, and which triggers you to eat more of the foods that you shouldn't be eating because, you know, you've created this mental battle in your mind, like, oh, I can't eat that. So it's like a perceived lack of control, right? Like people don't have control because they feel like they don't have control, right? Like it's like when I'm consciously aware that I have control over the food and it doesn't have control over me, then I can, you know, change my habits and behaviors.
Yeah.
What do you have to say to that?
Yeah. Oh, I love this discussion. Yeah, first of all, I would say there is no, like, I would never say something is bad or good for you unless we talk about, okay, we can see in a blood test that this is really bad for you. But like, if we talk about it in psychological terms, when you say something is like forbidden, you just want it more.
Yeah.
Because that's what happens. It's like when you tell people, don't think of the elephant in the room.
Oh shit, the elephant, right?
Yeah, the elephant is all
thinking.
over. It's like, I shouldn't eat that brownie. The only thing you want to have is that brownie.
Yeah, and I bet people are thinking about brownie right now.
Yes, me too. I had one yesterday. So it's all about saying, okay, food is not something that has control. It's something you can it's something you can get from plants, from nature. It doesn't have control over you. But when you decide that it's bad or it's something you have to restrict yourself from, then it gets power. You give away your power, your ability to make the right decisions for you to the food. But food is just, like, it has no soul.
Yeah.
So how can food have power? So it's really about allowing yourself, okay, I know what is good for me and what is not the best for me.
Yeah.
But if I want to have a brownie, I can decide to have a brownie. But I have to know if I want to lose weight, I cannot do this every day. But I can allow myself to have it every now and then.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's sustainable, right? Like
Yeah.
all the people who, in my experience, who have gone on these diets, and all these diets they preach like give up this, give up this, give up this. All those people, pretty much all of them, rubber band back to their previous self, where they are even eating more of the stuff that the diet said they shouldn't be eating, because they've built up this suffering in their mind, where they said to themselves, "Oh, don't eat this," and that just builds up suffering until you're like, "Oh, fuck it, I'm just gonna go eat all of it."
It's too hard.
Yeah.
You can't hold it. Yeah.
Or like the classic one where you eat, for example, let's say you eat a brownie, and you know you shouldn't have had the brownie, and then you're like, "Oh, I've made one bad decision, so now I'm on a slippery slope. So now that leads to a bad lunch, it leads to a bad dinner, and then all of a sudden, 2 weeks pass and you haven't had any foods that you know that are healthy for you. You've had all the junk food, because you're on that slippery slope, and it's easy to stay on that vicious cycle.
It is.
And it goes back to the, I'm not good enough. Let's eat the food that gives me comfort. Leads to more guilt and shame. I'm not good enough. And it's just a cycle that keeps repeating itself, and that's how people pack on the weight.
Yeah. And you tell yourself that the moment when you say, okay, I had that brownie, so now I can just continue eating.
Yeah.
Because that was a proof to me that I'm not good enough. So I can just, because that's how it is, right?
Yeah.
And again, it's like, instead of, you can change your mindset around that and be like, okay, I had that brownie. And maybe it was not the best decision, but I had it. It was actually really nice. It doesn't have to mean that I have to like throw it all away and then just eat the whole brownie now. I did that, and it's okay. Because if you type into that situation with more acceptance, then you are not so vulnerable to having another bad decision.
Yeah.
But if you're like being really harsh on yourself, like, why did you do that? Then you just need more comfort, more food.
Yeah.
Because you're being like the mean parents to yourself. And what do you feel like when something is like, if someone tells you you're not good enough, you shouldn't have done that. Like, I need protection, I need comfort.
Yeah.
So you just want to eat more. So it's all about being aware of, okay, now I'm doing this again. I'm telling myself that I shouldn't, and I behave badly, but that's not going to support me. That's not going to support me in the direction that I want to go. So instead, I can say, okay, I ate that brownie, and that's okay, because at least I'm aware.
Yeah. What about the social aspect though? So
Oh, yeah.
if you're beating yourself up, that's one thing. But then if other people, it's like for example, like Tina, why are you eating that brownie? Like you're supposed to be on a diet, right? Like then it's the social aspect is massive. It's huge.
Yeah, yeah.
So then it's like it's the shame, the public shaming, like the rejection that you feel, that a lot of people feel. Like I remember my friend, he was out at dinner, everyone's eating a pizza, and then he's there with the salad, and he's just hating his life. It's like that is everything wrong with what we're talking about, right? Like you feel the need to do that because I don't know. For him, he didn't feel shame with that, but most people would feel shame in that scenario because like there's no acceptance there. Like everyone wants to be seen, heard, understood, right? So people would look at him and like, whoa, he's the anomaly in the group. So how do you feel about that?
It's not easy to be the odd one out.
Yeah.
Because all people really want to be is a part of something, a part of a community.
Yeah.
And that's why we want to look good, because if we look good, we belong. Like we are a part of the community. So there is someone there that has our back. We're not alone. So when you step out of that social rule setting, whatever is right or wrong, it becomes risky. And it provokes fear and anxiety. So it's easier to just do what the group is doing. And what I experience isn't that much that, at least for girls, it's probably different with guys. Girls don't say to each other, why are you eating that brownie when you should be eating a salad? But girls think that they think that about us. So we already have that, like she might judge me if I eat this brownie because she might think that I should eat a salad instead. So it's maybe not said, but it's there, that judgment of you shouldn't. And it's again, all of this not allowing myself just to be. And sometimes we just need to just be who we are.
Yes.
Whether that is, today I want a salad.
Yeah.
And you can have your pizza. Or today I want my brownie. You can, and it's not easy when we have to be judging each other.
Yeah.
But every time we jump into judging other people, it's because that's like something we have to look at ourselves.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because we have a judgment around something in our own life.
Yes.
That we would rather put on other people instead of looking in the mirror, right?
And
so that's something everybody could learn from.
Yeah, there's so many things. So there's judgment, like judging others, and also self-betrayal. Like when you're not in alignment with your own values, like if your value is health, for example, and you're willing to please other people at the cost of your health, then that's you betraying yourself, right? Like this is what I experienced before many times. And it's funny because there was an incident where, so I preach a lot of animal-based nutrition, right? So we were at this event recently, and there was a steakhouse like literally right there. We're standing around, we're deliberating where to go. There's a steakhouse right there. And I was like, I'm going to the steakhouse. And everyone else was like, well, I'm going to go to this place and that place. I was like, that place sucks. Like, I'm going to go to the steakhouse. So I actually left the group and ate alone. And it's funny because normally I would never do that. But I was like, because I'm so in tune with my values and who I am. So I realized that, I was willing to do that. That's a hard thing to do. It's just, be the anomaly in the group and go eat alone. But the ironic thing was, whilst I was eating alone, another group of my friends came to join me. So it's like, by being true to yourself and what you know is right, you're gonna attract the people that want to be around you.
Yeah.
And it's like, I wasn't gonna continue to keep my mask on. I was just being myself.
Yeah.
And then by being myself, I ended up having a great dinner with great conversation with my friends. But that would have never happened had I gone with the other group to eat the food that I didn't want to eat. So it's self-love and having the values, like living in accordance to your values.
Yeah. But you have to know what your values are.
Yes.
Because if you don't know that health is like one of your top 5 values, then you're not going to choose actions that's going to support that. So one of the things that I actually do when I talk to people just in general, if there's something they want to change, I want to make sure that the first thing we talk about is what is really important in your life. What is your top values? So if they say health, okay, so what do you do that moves you in that direction on a daily basis?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if, for people where health is not one of their top 5 values, they maybe don't care if they go to the steakhouse or to the vegan place. They just want to have food, right? Because it's not something that's important to them.
Yeah.
But maybe community is everything for them. That's like their first top priority. So of course they're going to go wherever the group goes, because it's more important for them to be a part of the community. So we have to allow people to be who they are. So if we actually know this is me, this is important to me, and this is a decision I'm making because it serves me, it's way more like liberating for ourselves and for other people as well. Because if you decide to show up for yourself, you're going to show other people that you can do that. And we are so afraid of like just stepping into our power and be like, this is what I want. Because we are so afraid of being excluded from the community, judged by the community, and then we are alone again. So it's all that, should I be alone and be in my own power, or should I just maybe just go with the group to just adapt and be, it's difficult, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, but as long as you are aware of, I'm making this decision for me at this point of time, or okay, today I'm going to go with the group because that's what I feel like doing today, and then I can take good care of my needs tomorrow because I'm still going to go on that path.
Yeah. I think it's so
it's
important.
a balance thing.
Yeah, like the self-love is the root of everything, because like going back to my example of when I left that group, I was willing to face rejection, like be alone. And being alone is something that a lot of people are scared of. Like they're scared to be alone with their thoughts, and you know, a lot of people get energy from others. And I feel like this year especially, I've spent a lot of time alone, more than I ever have. And I've found a new level of love for myself, which is, I'm still working through it. I'm not perfect, no one is, right? But I realized that I'm so much more comfortable with who I am, so I can, you know, afford to eat alone and not feel like I should be part of that. Like I have this fear of missing out my whole life, and the fear of rejection is like massive for me. Like it goes into my relationships, everywhere. Fear of rejection, I have it. It's massive. It's huge. And I just feel like practicing consciously of, you know, practicing and facing the fear of rejection and being okay with it and feeling those emotions that come up when you're facing rejection is the only way to overcome it, right? Yeah.
And if you are scared of being rejected, it's because you are rejecting some part of yourself.
Right.
As not good enough. So, it's so important for us to be alone and to tune in, but it's so important to be around other people because they are going to mirror us. And we need other people to see the things about ourselves that we cannot see ourselves. So every time we jump into a conclusion about someone or make a judgment or have a theory about something, it's like it's a way of communicating, like the society communicates to us, this is something you should maybe look into.
Yeah, right. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because two people we can both look at one person, you and I. We can look at one person, and you'll find something that triggers you in that person, and I'll find something that triggers me about them. Yeah. Or maybe not. Maybe it's vice versa. But it's interesting because whatever pisses us off or triggers us is the stuff that we need to look at, like you said, about ourselves. Because everyone's a mirror. Like you're my mirror, I'm your mirror. Yeah. Right? So anything you judge in me, that's your shit. Yeah. You know? And vice versa.
I have to own it. I have to own it
own
because it's my shit. But I would rather if you could take it.
So is there anything else we haven't spoke about that you want to talk about with regards to psychology around, I guess, just living a full life? I guess we could talk about, actually no, I'll leave the question up to you. Anything you want to add?
Yeah. I want to add something about, because you mentioned emotional eating,
Yep.
and my like field is overeating, which is a similar dimension, but it is so shameful. So there's a lot of people. It's actually the biggest eating disorder. It's crazy how many people that suffers from this. And there's so much judgment and stigmatization around overweight. And a lot of people have the idea that people lack willpower, or they're just lazy, or they just don't know enough about what the right thing is to eat. But if they actually suffer from overeating, that's where it's a psychological problem, where you are not able to control how much you eat, because you don't have a solution to deal with that, with all of the emotions.
Yeah.
And so people can experience that they on a weekly basis maybe have episodes of overeating where they would within 2 hours eat maybe 7,000 calories.
Yeah.
Which is a lot.
Yeah.
And they feel like all their body hurts. And they're very judgmental and self-critical towards themselves. And what they do is they promise, tomorrow I'm going to change it. Tomorrow I'm going to eat a salad, or I'm not going to eat at all.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely not going to tell anyone. So they're so alone with this because they don't want to share it because it's so shameful. And it's just so important for me to say that there are so many people out there that need help with this. And it's okay, and it has nothing to do with you. It's just you haven't learned how to deal with the emotions of pain, lack of worthiness, lack of being good enough. And you have to learn that in order to ever change your relationship with food. So emotions, like dealing with the emotions and figure out what it's all about, is so important. And more people should know that there is a way out, and it's through. But it's not only eating better, exercising more. It's typing into why you have these wounds. It keeps you going to the fridge, keeps you gaining weight,
So
eating the chocolate.
yeah, absolutely. That's what I've been fascinated about for my whole life, really, psychology. But now, as it relates to health and overeating, massive problem. And so it's interesting you brought that up. I'm actually grateful that you did bring that up, because overeating is something that it can't be solved by just eating different foods, because the emotion's still there.
Yeah.
And that's really the issue that most people, especially in the health space, don't consider, is the emotional side of food.
Yeah.
And so what are the steps someone who's overeating, maybe they're watching this now and they're like, yeah, that's me, like, for example, one of my friends, he's in amazing shape now, but back when he was overeating, he would order 2 pizzas, one for his family, one for him, and then he would eat a pizza without them knowing before he got to the house, and then put it in the bin outside, so no one knew that he ate an extra pizza.
Yeah.
Like stuff like that, you always want to hide it, right? Like you want to hide like this pattern of behavior that is not socially accepted, or you're just fearing judgment. So it's easier to eat alone and stuff your face than it is to, eat out with friends and do that, because you're going to be judged.
Yeah.
So what are the steps people could take to start to solve this issue? I know it's a big problem, but what are the steps that you would advise?
First of all, I guide people through like a 8-step process, because first you have to look at your eating patterns. So the first thing that I do is to tell people that overeating and emotional eating is a psychological problem. You cannot only solve it with eating healthy food and exercise. You need to dive into and to explore the emotions. And that's the big part of talking to a psychologist, for example. But we have to start really basic, and then we have to, because slowly getting there, because there's so much shame, so much fear around it, so we cannot just dive into, so how did you feel when you were a child? So the first thing that I do is to help people like map out, what is it that I eat? Like, writing down in an eating diary, what is it that I eat during the day? And it can be very, very hard because you have to write everything down. So you also have to write about that pizza you ate before you came home to your family. And you have to share it with me, for example. You can also do it just on your own, but then we have a tendency to be like, I don't have to write that down because I don't want to face it.
Yeah.
But if you have someone that's counting on you to show up, and if you want something to change, you have to be honest with yourself first. And you can only change things if you're being honest with what is actually happening. So map out what is it that I actually eat during a day. And are there any kind of patterns? Let's say, for example, a lot of people overeat when they get home from work because that's where they have time.
Yeah.
And they probably also feel a lot of stress, so it's easy to eat. So they're alone, it's easy, or it's on their way home in the car. A lot of people just buy a lot of stuff and they just eat it and they come home and then there's dinner. Perfect, they can eat again. So if they overeat like afternoon, evening, then what they do, because they feel so bad about themselves before they go to bed, is maybe to say, tomorrow I'm just gonna skip breakfast and just have a small salad for lunch. So maybe that happens. And then what happens when they come home in the evening again? They crave all this food again and they just start to eat again. And you have to identify that you are doing this, you're restricting yourself, you're overeating. You're restricting yourself, you're overeating. And that's just gonna keep going, and keep going. So you need to have some stability. So okay, even though you ate yesterday, you still have to get up and get that breakfast that's good for you with the right fuel. That's where it's so important to know something about nutrition too. Because we have to make sure that the body gets the right fuel, that it's not gonna crave even more of the stuff that we would rather not have.
Yep.
So adding in a layer of stability in the, like, you have, in my perspective, like from the psychological point of view, is that there are these 3 meals that you have to have in order to have that stability and balance. That's not going to direct you into overeating, because the more you restrict yourself and want to skip things, the more likely it is that you will overeat just later that day or the next day or in the weekend. You're just going to postpone it until you can just go full in, because that's just the emotions coming up and saying, now I want this, and then you cannot control it. So you have to really like take a look into eating, and that's so scary because there's so much shame and anxiety around it. And that's like the first steps around that. And then I use like a cognitive behavioral theory around it, that every time you think something about food or yourself, that's going to affect how you behave. So we start to look into your thoughts and your feelings, and just looking at them from just moment to moment. And then we go back to see if those like limiting beliefs that could be like critical, where does they come from, and what kind of emotions are attached to them, and what is it really about, and when did all of this start, like when does it start, because it goes way back, like where food suddenly became an issue instead of just a survival thing. We need food to have energy to survive. And that's where the magic really happens, because when you start to realize, oh, yesterday I was actually eating because I felt that I was not performing well in my job, because a colleague of mine were not appreciative of what I did. So it tied right into me not feeling good enough, and every time I feel that, I want to eat.
Right.
Okay,
Yes,
so is there anything that I could do that would support me getting what I want right now? That's not food. What strategy could that be? Is it a hug? Is it calling a friend?
Yeah.
Is it taking a hot shower? What is it? Like, identify alternative behaviors that's going to support you towards what you want.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like what you said about that, looking at the emotion and so satisfying the emotion with some other thing other than food, right?
Yeah.
Like,
because food cannot satisfy an emotion unless it's physical hunger. And
Yeah.
then the only solution is food.
Yeah.
Otherwise, food is never a solution.
But we think it is.
Yeah. we feel that it is.
Yeah.
And we can tell ourselves that it is.
Because eating a brownie is, for example, we use the brownies.
Yeah.
Like eating that is easier than going to connect with some friends for a couple hours, or whatever it is for some people. Some people are like introverts, so you know, being alone indoors by themselves is easier than going out and socializing, where they really need to socialize and have some fun, but they seek fun in the food rather than actually socializing, stuff like that. And again, this is all intertwined with stress, right? Like most people are stressed, chronically stressed, don't even realize it, and they just eat in the food to deal with that emotion of being stressed because they have elevated cortisol levels, like you were saying, but it's just still not the solution. So that's why I promote like self-care routines, you know, massages, stuff like that. You know, just taking care of yourself. But then even then, most people, that's harder for them to do if they're not used to it than it is to just get the favorite comfort food.
Yeah. And if they don't feel like they're worthy enough, why would they then allow themselves to go into spa, have a massage?
Yeah, that's true.
Order some really delicious but healthy food that might be maybe a bit more expensive than buying that quick pizza you can put in the oven.
Yeah.
Because if I'm not worthy enough of all the good stuff, if you don't feel like you are. So a lot of this like psychological process is also going back and figuring out, what did you used to enjoy? What makes you laugh? What lights up your soul? Is that being social with friends? Is that actually going out on a nice dinner? Is it walking down the beach? Is it reading a book? And getting more of that into your life. So it's not only the solution is I can go home, be myself, watch Netflix and eat. Because then that's what we do, because it's easy. And if we feel stressed, we don't want to go out again. It's just too much. So we need different strategies, and we have to identify what could be something that I would actually enjoy. What is good for me? And that's different for people. But we have to think about that.
It's interesting because right now, as you're saying that, I can just hear the person watching this who's like, their whole existence for them in their mind is just focusing on work. They're like, yeah, well, I just love my work, so that's why I'm doing this. I just love my work, and I need food. Like I'm stressed, right? Like I just love my work. But even those people, when they were a kid, there were things that they liked to do as a hobby. But then as they, you know, grew older and got more obsessed about what they do, which is fine, but they still have that kid inside of them that wants to do those things, like you were saying earlier. And it's just about tapping into that.
And work is not everything, but it's like in this Western society, now we're in Bali, but it's like there's so much pressure around that you have to have a job that it's purposeful and has so much meaning, and you can like brand yourself on it. But it's just somehow it's just a shield, right? It's just something we put on to show the world that we are like this. This is my identity. This is who I am. But what about that little kid that used to love to play soccer, or love just to watch a movie, or just laughing with his friends? He's still there. And he needs love and attention. And we have to embrace that as well. And food is also like, there's so many emotions in food. And what I've also discovered is that if you don't have like any like intimacy or connection with people, like just basic touch, people need to be touched. Because if you're single, there's so many single people that don't have a partner, but also people that have a partner, but they are too stressed, so they don't spend time being intimate with each other. Food also becomes like comfort, like something that warms us up from the inside. We need more connection. We need to be with people. We need to touch each other. We need to just allow ourselves to be intimate and to be human being, and to just take better care of each other. We just need a hug. We just need someone to hold us sometimes.
I think the world is starved of connection. You
Yes.
see it when you go to restaurants. You see couples and they're just on their phone. They're not even talking to each other. It's just terrible, especially out here in Asia, like East Asia, like China, Korea, Japan. It's like an epidemic.
It is. And it's not like that you have to talk to each other, but just putting the phones away, sharing a meal together. You can just be there with each other in silence, but you're just aware with that other human being. And that's so important, that we can just allow ourselves to be. We don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
But we can just be together and just like doing like this. This is just showing you I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm in this with you. We need more of that.
Yeah.
Like more of connection, more of allowing emotions to be, more curiosity and acceptance of ourselves and others. Because then we don't have all these symptoms and all of these psychological disorders, all of these eating disorders, training disorders. Yeah.
Yeah. More love and connection. And
yes.
more presence too, right? Like being fully present. Like I'm not thinking about anything else, I'm just fully present. You're fully present. And similarly, now when I go to dinner, I always practice that. So I as best as I can, don't go on my phone throughout the duration of the time I'm with my friends. Unless I'm showing them something on my phone, I'm not going to go and like just check Instagram, you know, because it's like there's no connection. Well, I could do that at my house by myself. You know.
There's a reason you're out with your friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have discovered that there's so much around energy, and if you're present, you can feel whether there's energy or not. And if there's energy, you want to connect. If there's not energy, you want to do something different. And sometimes people, when they don't really feel there's energy, they might pick up their phone. Instead of saying, okay, maybe these people are not for me. Maybe I should do something different that would support me in another direction. That would be better.
Yeah.
So that awareness of being with people and just being fully present, but also being it with yourself. Because the first thing we do, a lot of people do, when they are alone, is taking that phone, which is fine, but again, you have to have the control. So now you're being aware. And I'm taking my phone because I want to check Instagram. It's not just a habit I just dive into because I'm bored. Because then it's the same thing with the food, or with the alcohol, or with the gambling. Like it's an addiction.
Like, I'm using this. This is not using me, right?
Yeah. It's decision.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
An awareness.
Yeah.
Yeah. More present.
Yeah. So you can't change anything you're not aware of, right? So that was what? 1 hour, 7 minutes.
Oh, that was a long one.
That was a good one.
That was a good talk.
Yeah, so that was, I feel like this is the start of something great because this is what people need. This is the real stuff, like the real underlying issues that no one really talks about. So I appreciate you coming on, and it was great to have you. We should hug it out.
Yes, we should. More connection. Thank you for bringing this topic up. It's so important.
All right. Where can people find out more about you?
They can go to my website, tinepsychologist.com, and it's the same name on Instagram, so Tine Psychologist. And reach out to me, ask any questions you have. I'm here to support you guys. And take good care of yourself, more self-love and presence from me.
More self-love and presence.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.